everyone, welcome to the course Operating Systems. In this particular video, we are going to have a look at the different functions of the OS, but from the system's perspective. So the learning objective of this particular video is we will have a look at the different functionalities of the OS that is performed from the system's perspective. So let's see how the operating system interacts with the different elements. So as we have already discussed that the different applications are run on a typical computer environment and applications interact with the computer via the operating system. So operating system is responsible for managing and allocating the different hardware equipments to these running applications. Now, there are several input-output devices that are associated with the computer system. Like we have the keyboard through which we type in different information which in turn is fed to the computer. Then we have the mouse as well, which is meant for giving some input to the computer. Now keyboard and mouse are considered as the different input devices. Then we have typically in a computer environment a monitor. A monitor is basically a display device which is used to output the different information that is generated by the computer system. And hence monitor is considered as an output device. We do also have the different storage devices, that is the disk drives, which are meant to keep the data safe and secure even when we power down our computer system. So these are typically the different pieces of hardware that we find in the computer system. Others also include processors, main memory, and so on. Another type of output device that is associated with the operating system is the printer, which is meant for printing any documents which we want to consume for our usages. So now as we can see that the communication between the application and the operating system is bidirectional, so is the communication between the disk drives and the operating system. However, as we can see, the communication between keyboard and operating system as well as mouse and operating system is unidirectional because keyboard and mouse are used to feed data into the computer. Also, the communication between the OS and the monitor is again unidirectional, and here the data from the computer system goes to the monitor. And finally, the same applies for the printer as well. So now, OS acts as the manager and the allocator of these different resources that are typically associated with a computer. So it manages all the resources, but then again, only management is not enough. The resource utilization also needs to be maximized to the possible extent. This is because in a typical computer environment, in order to keep the performance optimum, it should not be the case that the certain resources are underutilized and certain other resources are overutilized. There should be a balance with respect to how the resources are being utilized. Again, when the different applications are running, the different applications would be requesting for the different computing resources at the same time. The OS should make sure that these conflicting as well as simultaneous requests are handled properly so that none of the resources are rendered into an inconsistent state. And finally, the OS also needs to ensure that the resources are managed fairly across all the applications. That means that there should be a fair allocation of the resources among the different applications. It should not be the case that an application has to wait for an indefinite amount of time after it has requested for a particular resource and before it is actually allocated that particular resource. Again, we can also say that OS acts as a control program. But what it basically controls? It needs to ensure that the different user programs as well as the applications which are running on behalf of the users, they are properly executed. Now, proper execution here implies that no program should be able to intentionally or even unintentionally do something harmful to the other programs that are running on the same computer. And this kind of harm includes corrupting the memory of another user program or doing something which makes the another program crash. Now, all of these are managed and handled and definitely prevented by the operating system. So in this particular video, we learnt about the different functionalities of the OS that is done from the system's perspective, how the OS interacts with the different hardware, manages the allocation of the hardware across the different applications, and how ensures the correct execution of the different applications. Thank you.